AKN4EU for consolidation. Is the cat dead or alive? Akoma Ntoso multiple versions as a solution to identify relevant legal clauses. So let's find out more about this slightly cryptic title and hear about the cat from our two speakers, Žilvinas Bubnys, who's head of consolidation and summaries of EU law sector at the Publications Office of the EU, and Maria Kardami, who's information manager also at the Publications Office of the EU. Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Žilvinas, and I'm here with my colleague Maria, and we are both in charge of consolidation of the legal acts in the Publication Office of the European Union. And we will present to you how, with detailed metadata, well-defined document structure, and sophisticated automation, we can make consolidated text of EU law more accessible. What is consolidation? For example, let's say there is an EU regulation that was adopted in 2010, and over time there have been several amendments made to this regulation. These amendments may have modified or deleted certain parts of the original regulation. In order to have a complete and clear view of a regulation as it stands today, a consolidated version of a regulation would be produced. And this consolidated version would include the original regulation and all subsequent amendments with any modifications or deletions clearly indicated. The resulting consolidated text do not undergo legislative procedure and are not adopted by the legislator, so they bear no legal effect. However, considering they are purely based on the text originating from the legally binding legal acts, these consolidated texts are extensively used by EU institutions, national administrations, businesses, and general public. This consolidation involves production of consolidated legal acts on a daily basis, with around 2,000 new versions being produced every year in all 24 EU languages. This results in over 3.5 million pages of consolidated text each year, which all can be found on EURLEX. Due to the large number of legal acts that need to be processed, machine processing has to be used as much as possible, and this requires clear, unambiguous, and uniform amending instructions. In the amending acts, we can find a number of different ways to describe how the text of a basic act should be changed, and you can see several examples on the left. However, out of the many different instructions, we identify four main types of textual changes: replacement, addition, deletion, and renumbering, which target the basic act. Once the amending instructions is classified, it becomes clear for the consolidation system what action has to be taken and how the text has to be amended. However, the complexity does not end here. Besides the different ways of changing the text, amending acts also specify different dates that are relevant to the specific amendments. One obvious date is entry into force of a legal act, which stipulates the amendment. However, in the very frequent case, it also describes a specific date of application of that specific amendment or group of amendments. In EU law, in directives, we also have date of so-called transposition, which describes by which date national authorities in the member states should implement the provisions of this legal act into the national law. Then, to make things even more interesting, we have the so-called conditional application dates, where the legal act describes that certain amendments shall be applied only when certain conditions are met, for example, when another act is adopted or some other administrative procedure is implemented. Here is an example of what may happen with a legal act when it is amended and corrected. In this slide, the evolution of a legal act is presented. We have a basic act here, indicated with a letter B, 3 amending acts marked as M, and 1 corrigenda marked with letter C. The placeholders represent different moments in time where a specific event occurred. First, there are dates of publication, second, entry into force, and third, dates of application, and last but not least, the dates when consolidated texts were produced and the acts which were taken into account in these consolidated versions. In order to produce consolidated text, including respective amendments and corrections, first, that amendment has to be published. Second, it has to be applicable. However, with this approach, many other possible combinations are left apart. For example, based on the date of application, version including first amending act as corrected by the corrigendum, or version including act number 1 as corrected by corrigendum and amending act number 3, they are not included in any of the consolidated versions. Also, in 2021, amending acts M1 and M2 are already published, but we do not have consolidated versions included with acts at that date because these modifications are not applicable yet, and we see them only once M3 and M2 becomes applicable. At the end, we find ourselves in the situations where the relevance of amendments to the act depends on who we are and which dates we are interested in. Similar to Schrödinger's cat, which is both alive and dead at the same time. Great news! We have found a solution to this riddle, and my colleague Maria will now share it with you.
Thank you, Žilvinas. And indeed, this solution is based on the multiple versions concept, an XML file where each date and type of date is recorded, therefore combining in a single document all possible versions of the legal act as it has been amended through time. More specifically, this multiple versions file is composed of 3 main pieces of information. First, the text of the original Basic Act as it has been published in the official journal of the European Union. Second, the text of each and every modification as it has been instructed in a modifying act or corrigendum. And third, most important, detailed metadata about all these modifications, including, of course, the different dates and types of dates that my colleague has mentioned beforehand. The markup of this multiple versions XML file follows the rules of the Akoma Ntoso XML standard, which is also known as an international standard legal doc ML. The Akoma Ntoso schema has been customized to the particularities of EU legislation, resulting in the Akoma Ntoso for EU specifications. To cover the needs of consolidation, we have further refined and enriched the Akoma Ntoso for EU specs with specific metadata and structures arriving to the Akoma Ntoso for EU Conselect specifications, which have been the basis for our project. In this slide, you can see actually an extract of the multiple versions XML file, and more specifically, the part of the metadata where we are describing the identifier of every modifying act, the relevant dates, and the type of each date. At the second step, we create temporal groups, which help us bring together the different dates per modifying act. Last, we link every modification to the concrete temporal group, which helps us get a precise view of the legal act in different points in time. Therefore, all these detailed metadata help us to generate single versions out of the multiple versions document with the help of the XSLT transformation technology and by providing only 2 parameters, the actual date value and the type of date. So in this specific example, as you can see here, we have requested to see the consolidated text of the legal act as applicable on 15th of March of 2021. And of course, we are able to generate additional versions. And now let me guide you through the main principles that help us achieve all these goals, and in particular, the need for semantic interoperability and integration of our data with other resources. To this aim, we have based our approach on a set of semantic web principles. For example, we are using an XML open format, as it is the Akoma Ntoso standard. We are using control list of values as embedded in the Akoma Ntoso schema. We will define a set of controlled vocabularies, authority tables for other information, like the type of dates, in order to consistently use the same values during our production. And to ensure the unique identification of each subdivision, we identify each and every structure, both of the original Act and the modifying provisions, with the European legislation identifier A. In parallel, we are preparing an ontology in order to disseminate the consolidation metadata as open linked data. To summarize and conclude, if there are 3 key points to take away from our presentation today, this would be the fact that with detailed metadata, well-defined document structure, and sophisticated automation, we can precise the status of each legal provision in a specific point in time. We increase the efficiency of our production, and ultimately, we make EU consolidated acts more user-friendly, transparent, and accessible.
Thank you very much. Thanks to both of you for a very clear and well summarized presentation. So yes, I do have a question here, actually. What is the main advantage that AKN4EU brings to the drafting of consolidations?
So in AKN4EU, we have quite a big flexibility where we can describe in the very rich metadata the legal provisions with respective dates and types of dates, and also we can add any additional information or additional references if needed in order to make it even more rich and to refer to other documents if they somehow relevant to that consolidated document. And also AKN4EU is expected to be a drafting format for European institutions. So this is why we have chosen this also as a format for consolidation in order to be compatible and to streamline production of consolidated text based on legal acts as provided by legislator.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very clear. Well, thanks very much for being with us this afternoon and for explaining all that. Since you are from the Office of Publications, people know where to get hold of you if they need further clarifications in the future or if they want to touch base with you. So thanks a lot for being with us, and bye-bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you.